So this area is Mraz Family Farms. Coffee flowers sequentially. You can see all of this is flowers that were happening last week. And underneath is where the cherries are developing. These were all the developing cherries all over the plant. So one of the things that makes this such a difficult crop is that you have to pick each ripe berry in time. Every single one has to be picked by hand. Harvest goes on over about 5 months. Basically about every 2 weeks, they'll do a big harvest through. And the thing we're doing with coffee is we're looking for these red cherries. And the cherry's actually very flavorful, but inside it has 2 coffee beans. And that's surrounded by pulp. And this pulp is what we wash off or ferment off, and then we dry the beans. We have one more layer called the parchment, and then green coffee bean inside. Then we roast. And you have to think about all the parts of the process. This is a crop that is processed after we pick it. That's one of the things that makes coffee a tricky business for California because of labor. Last year they measured all the yield of this tree and they got 16 pounds of cherries, which nets out to about 7 pounds of coffee. It's about 50% the weight of the fruit and the pulp, and then the parchment in that is about another 20%. We're now in an area where these have been growing 6 years. And this is what we call a grown-in system. These bushes have filled in really nicely. The spacing is 6 feet apart, 6 feet between rows, and between 3 rows of avocados, then we have an alley like this for access. We've realized here that the coffee trees were getting too tall, so we've cut them back and it causes them to grow out. And you can see we've already cut this back on the top because it had gotten to be over 16 feet tall. But we don't want them to get too tall because the harvesting gets harder and harder at height. So if we keep them into a compact size, we can be very happy in that way. Many trees, the fruiting wood gets old. Avocados and coffee both can be stumped. So when the coffee tree, we can prune its height to keep it productive for a while, and then when it gets to be about 10 years old, we can prune it down to the ground, and we have a new growing shoot that we save here coming up, and it will regenerate as a whole new tree with this giant root system and be much happier and healthier. So here's an example of a coffee tree that we've cut back close to the ground, and now it's regrowing with very healthy growth. Some coffee trees around the world are productive up to 100 years. The common is 50 years. So we take care of them. We have an entomologist come to the farm every month, and he'll check the underside of leaves because that's where you normally see pests hiding. When we first started, we noticed a scale, coffee scale. We used safer soap and then got a predatory mite of scale and that we never saw it again. We have these incredibly clean, healthy leaves, and part of that is this healthy environment that we're maintaining for our trees. It's an ongoing thing, and it takes time to build to it. Everybody said that you can't do this. They won't grow in California. There's a limit on both sides of the equator. That's the coffee region. Well, how about if we just try it? We think of the California climate as an advantage because coffee in most of the world is moving higher and higher up to get away from global climate change. So we're just at the front edge of that, and coffee actually might get to be the best crop here for a while. We have the opportunity to grow the beans for a longer period of time because it takes them longer to ripen here. So that's more time on bean, or more time for the bean to gain flavor compounds. So I'm after what varieties in the future will really be the ones that sing here. what variety of coffee will be the one in San Diego County. But we don't know exactly what's going to make the best bean yet. We have to discover it. And we're looking for flavor and complexity. These are beans that'll only ever be roasted to light roast. They don't need to be roasted to cooked. You know, we want to reveal the flavor and experience that. And I'm very interested in trying different varieties. Part of what we did is we planted 11 varieties in this planting. We're going to be able to observe how these different varieties perform in this climate. So one of the first varieties that we had here is called Geisha, that is the world's top variety of coffee right now. The Geisha grown in Panama sells for $2,000 a pound. It's originally a variety from Ethiopia. This is a variety that has a yellow cherry. It's just starting to ripen. Amarillo. This is one of my favorite varieties called Mundo Novo that has really big leaves. And each of these coffee varieties produces a different flavor profile. And we don't know many of these answers, so we have to try. It's really an amazing thing what you can do.